Welcome back to the Poke Historian. I'm your host, Matt X. This is the show where we flip on the camera and we talk about Pokemon cards. We talk about life. Talk about the intersection of these two things together. It's a rainy day over here in Florida. Just relaxing. It's been quite the eventful last few days, so I'm just kind of trying to take some time to decompress and get some rest for the big week ahead. And I was just thinking about particular topic I've heard rumblings about in the Pokemon card community, but nothing that's ever been confirmed. It's almost kind of more of a conspiracy theory, but I thought it'd be fun just to touch base on, and that is the secret Pokemon Cabal. And what this essentially would be, if it exists, is it's a group of, I guess they'd have to be very wealthy people that have come together, and what they do is they somehow influence the Pokemon card market. It's almost like a sort of like a shadow government type situations where like they're pulling the strings behind the scenes and making things work and making certain things go up, certain things go down, products get bought out. It's an interesting concept. I'm not sure if I'm fully behind the idea that such a group exists, but there seems to be more and more rumblings that there might actually be people like that out there in the community. I mean, if I just think about, for example, Rudy from Alpha Investments, he's certainly not part of any kind of cabal, at least as far as I know, but is he a wealthier individual that's buying up a lot of cardboard? Yeah. Yeah, he is. So would it really be that crazy to think that there might be other people that are kind of working together doing something similar, or possibly buying even more than he is in the Pokemon market? I don't know. It's really kind of hard to say. But we do know that there's more wealthy people out there than ever. And a lot of these truly wealthy people, they don't even want to reveal themselves to the public. They don't want you and I to know who they are. So with that in mind, I think it's totally a possibility. And then that kind of leads us to our next point is like, well, if such a group of individuals or entities or whatever you want to call it exists out there, what exactly are they buying? Like, are they buying up modern singles? Are they buying sealed product? Like, what are these people after? What's their goal? And from what I understand, just based on rumors, like I said, this is all conjecture, by the way. This is just a for fun video. There's no real foolproof evidence of any of this. But as I understand it, though, got my little belly bolt toy here. For some reason, this was in my freezer. There's a lot of alcohol at my house the last few days, so I'm not really sure what happened, but this was in my freezer for some reason. Anyways, going back to that, though, like it's really hard to say if such a group exists, but if they do exist, like what are they supposedly trying to do? A lot of people think that this cabal is more involved in the vintage world. And what they are more so into is kind of trading hands of a lot of like the more expensive vintage booster boxes, like your Sky Ridges, your Aquapolis, your Neo Destiny. And they are selling amongst each other, as I understand it, where they continue to buy and sell to one another in order to kind of keep the prices moving up and to further inflate the market to make Pokemon bigger and bigger. I mean, I could see something like that going on, right? Especially if you got these expensive products and you got a lot of money. It certainly is a way where you can make your stuff worth more money. And we know people already shill bid on eBay, right? On pretty much anything. So why would it be a stretch to think that there's a group of very wealthy people out there that essentially shill bid to each other to make their vintage sealed products go up in value? I think that's totally possible. And the other thing that a lot of people think that this cabal does is they also buy up as many of the chase vintage cards that everybody wants and kind of hold them so there's less and less on the market. We're talking about things like your Crystal Lugias, your Shining Charizards, your first edition base set cards, probably a lot of your Gold Stars as well. The thought is that this group actually buys up a lot of these cards and just holds them and just takes them off the market. I'm sure some of you have heard of like kind of how the diamond industry was set up, and the whole premise behind that is that diamonds aren't actually very rare. There's just like a collective entity that has kind of harnessed most of the diamonds, and they just kind of very like slowly like drip feed them out into the market to keep their value up, and they're really just sort of hoarding them away. At least that's how I understand it. And the thought process is there might be something similar going on with a lot of like the vintage chase Pokemon cards. As far as that goes, I mean, it doesn't sound like that much of a stretch, right? Especially with how much we've seen vintage go up in the last couple of years. Because when we first got into this bull market, I suppose you'd call it, a lot of vintage stuff was just very quietly moving and getting bought up, and no one was paying attention to it. And then, surprise, surprise, some months went by and a lot of the stuff that was out there was gone. And what was left was a lot more expensive. So I think there's a good chance that even if there's not a group of people that are coming together and buying collectively a lot of these chase cards, I'm sure that at least there are some people that were kind of thinking like me back in like early 2025, late 2024, that they should make a move on the vintage stuff. And they did. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's a very kind of interesting idea. And as we've kind of talked about before on this channel, I do think the way things are set up in the Pokemon card market, hobby, whatever you want to call it, a lot of it is fake. Doesn't mean that it's not something that you can't rely on. It doesn't mean it's something that's going to come falling down and crashing. But a lot of what goes on these days, as far as buying and selling of these bigger ticket price items, there's definitely some tomfoolery going on. And it just kind of happens because the more money gets into a hobby or any type of activity, inevitably the more corrupt it gets. So maybe there is a cabal and maybe they are kind of influencing the market. But from what I hear though, I mean, there could be a whole nother group that's doing a lot of like the modern stuff. But all I hear about though is these particular people are more so really into like the vintage side of things. And between you and me, you're probably wondering, okay, so you're probably wondering who these people are. That's like the next big question, right? Like who is a part of this cabal? And I'm not going to name anybody because I don't really know for sure. I don't really have any evidence. Like I said, this is just for fun. But some people speculate that the cabal may be at least partially made of some of the larger YouTube personalities that we all like to watch. I don't know who. I couldn't even tell you who. Could be a lot of them. Could be none of them. Could be just one or two of them. But there seems to be a consensus with this conspiracy theory that at least some of the bigger name Pokemon YouTubers are involved with this group. So think about that and make of it what you will. Anyways, thanks for watching. This was kind of a fun thing to talk about. It's always interesting to talk about mysterious, shadowy organizations, right? And what they're doing, if they exist, if they don't. It's all for fun. If you like this video, like and subscribe. If you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe to my channel. If you want to see when I put up new videos, hit the notification bell. And let me know down in the comments, what do you think about this whole situation? Is this legit? Is this a real thing? Or is this just another internet conspiracy that's just gotten out of hand? Talk to you later.